Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Consider It Blacklit. I am Kim, your host. And for those of you tuning in for the first time, Consider It Blacklit highlights films, television programs, and stage plays that feature African Americans both up front and behind the scenes. We also discuss social issues as it relates to some of these programs and how they may or may not impact our communities. So thank you for tuning in, and we hope you continue to tune in each week. Today, it is my pleasure to have a talented young man, an actor, producer, writer, and director, Eric Phillips. Welcome, Eric.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. I appreciate
Well, yeah, I'm so glad, in the midst of a pandemic, we found a way to connect.
it.
So I'm going to start off by asking you to tell our audience, who is Eric Phillips? Tell us about yourself.
All right. Well, my name is Eric Phillips. I'm 25 years old. I'm born and raised in Atlantic City, New Jersey. I've been in acting all of my life, but for the most part, started off in, watching my mom, traveling around with my mom as she went and did different plays. And so me and my brother would be sitting out into the audience. And so there's this one particular time where me and my brother were sitting out in the audience, and my mom was making this very dramatic scene. And the lady behind me, all I hear is like sniffles and everything like that. And so I turn around and I'm looking, and I didn't know what was going on. Like I said, I was young, but I knew whatever it was, whatever emotion that my mom was portraying, I wanted to be able to do that. And so just following in her footsteps and learning under her and other great, artists in the community. I was able to study under a plethora of good artists in my community. So, and that's how I was able to, result into, the young man that I am today.
Oh, that's amazing. That's great. So, the short film that I've recently seen is My Brother's Keeper.
Yeah.
Why don't you give us a short synopsis of what that's about?
So My Brother's Keeper is about two young men, two brothers who born and raised in the same household, had the same opportunities, but due to circumstances, they took different routes. And so when we get a chance to explore their relationship and their bond, some of their hardships with brotherhood and sometimes sisterhood what that encounters. And so we take a journey on their relationship, and then we also touch a little bit on the relationship between the main character AJ, who's a basketball star at his university, and his girlfriend Aaliyah, and their relationship and their bond. And so we take a journey between those three main characters, and I think that you guys would be very interested in seeing what it looks like.
Well, I've seen it and I like it. So,
Thank
at
you.
this point, we're going to give our audience just a little clip
Okay.
of My Brother's Keeper.
Yeah. Nothing safe when your numbers change. Keep it low and pay the fee. Talking, but it's not too often that they live and where they speak. Good kept me entertained. Money came and then it went away. Lord, see over everything. Am I my brother's keeper? You know everybody gotta eat, bruh. I want it all on the head, if not a clown in the air. The right side of the chair.
Let me tell you something, and you hear me good. If you leave this house,
I hope they don't do you like Judas. I pray to God. Ain't wearing off.
So, when an audience sees this short film, what do you want them to kind of take away from it?
Well, I want them, whatever they come to the film feeling, I want them to, be able to relate themselves to the film, whether it's two sisters or a brother and a sister or two brothers. I want them to be able to, at least realize, even if they're in a bad place and they don't have communication with their siblings, to be able to go and reconsider it, because, life is short. And as we can see with some of the past people that we lost in this pandemic alone, life is short, and we never know when things are going to happen. So I think it would behoove of us to rekindle those relationships. And I'm not saying you have to be buddy, but understand that there's a love there, and you want to be able to have that bond, and you want the person or your sibling or your dad or your mom, you want them to know that you love them. because like I said, life is short. So taking advantage of the times that we have.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So when did you release this?
We released it August 21st. Yes, it was a Friday.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. In the middle of the pandemic?
in the middle of the in the middle of the pandemic. Yes, yes. And so what we did was we did 2 screenings. I was lucky enough to have a brother of mine. He had a lot on the next side on the side of his home, and so we put up an inflatable screen, and we had about 50 people per screening, just to safety precautions. We had masks and everything like that, following the precautions of COVID, and it was a great turnout.
So where
Yeah.
would you like to see this film go? Where, what's your dream way of getting everyone to see it?
So my dream for this is to be able to turn this film into a feature length. Unfortunately, just a little bit of background story on the film and how we got started. I first started off, I wrote this about 4 years ago, so it's been about a 4-year process. And at the time, it started off as a feature length film. And trying to get a feature length film up, one of the main things that you run into is budgeting for the project. And so that was a problem. So I said, okay, well, let's try to figure out another way to still be able to get this story across at a much cheaper price. So we said, okay, well, let's turn it into a web series. And after writing it, I said, you know what, it wouldn't be an impactful project if I didn't have it as a film. That's what it initially started off as. That's what I would like to keep it at. And so I said, okay, well, let's do a short film. So I did the budgeting for that. And I said, okay, this is out of my reach. I've never, and these are one of the things that I try to tell artists all the time, is invest in yourself. Always invest in yourself, because if anybody's going to believe in you, or if anybody if anybody is going to, want to contribute to you, they want to see that you have some sort of skin into the game. And so with that, I said, okay, well, this is reasonable. I can do this. And so I was blessed enough to have an uncle who is a photographer and a videographer. And so I mentioned it to him. I told him what my dream was. And he blessed me enough to be able to go 50% with me on the project.
Well, that's amazing.
Yeah, so it was an amazing situation. And like I said, being surrounded by a village who cares about you and loves you and wants to see you succeed, they'll do what they can to be able to make sure that they can assist. And so I was blessed enough to have people around me who was able to assist me in this project. And so thankfully, we were able to get the project going. And it took about 9 months to shoot it. We had some people drop out in the middle of the process. And, like you said, it wouldn't be a project if you didn't have walls that you ran into.
Right.
But nonetheless, that helps with a part of who I am in my resiliency and my diligence. I still kept it going and made sure that we got it done. And I had a crew and a team behind me who was very understanding and who was there for it all, and wanted to finish the project and make sure we got it done. So thankfully, I was able to get the project done, and we finished filming. We started in 2019. Of July 8th of 2019, and we finished July 4th of 2020.
Wow.
And yeah, so it's about a year process between the filming, and then we went into a post-production. And so we want to make it a feature-length film. So now that we have the film out, the goal is to be able to get it funded to get the whole feature-length done.
Okay, cool. So on this film, you were the producer,
Yes.
the writer,
Yes.
director, and you starred in it.
A lot of facts.
So, tell me how you played all those hats. I mean, were there challenges or was it difficult? Tell the audience, for somebody else who may want to embark on the same thing.
Yes.
Tell us what that was like.
It was challenging. Only because usually, with the budget that I would have liked to have, I would have been able to have a little bit of stress relieved off of me. But I'm an up and coming artist. I have a dream, and one of the things is you have to, you got to take the mantle and keep pushing forward. But I can't say that I did it by myself. I know I played all of those roles, but like I said before, I had a really, really good supportive team. The village behind me was amazing, and it took a lot off of me. So though I had all of those hats, it didn't feel like that. And then because I was doing what I loved, I didn't even pay attention to that. You know what I mean? It was just like, okay, we said we were going to start it. We got started. We can't finish now. And I was just, a lot of prayer, a lot of prayer went into it as well. I can't, by the grace of God, we were able to get through this thing. And God doesn't put you in any situation that you can't handle, and that's just one of the things that I've always went through. A lot of situations, ups and downs and different things like that. And my foundation, it's always been God. Mm-hmm. Anything I've ever had, anything I've ever went through, any process, going back to school, it was always God. So yeah, it was just amazing. Just by the grace of God, we were able to get it done. So I can't take any of that credit. It's more like God. It's more to God. I give all the praise to him.
Why don't you tell our audience about your company, Twisted Fantasy?
So Twisted Fantasy, I believe we started in 2018. It initially started, I didn't have a production company in mind. It was more of, I was dating this young lady. She was a model, I was an actor. And so to save on having to spend money on headshots, we went and invested into a camera ourselves. And so to make a long story short, we ended up splitting up. She blessed me. She said, you know what, go ahead and keep the camera. And so I guess you can say film found me because as I started going along, I started recording my monologues. And usually I would have to go and find someone else to like record for me and different things like that. But because I had the camera, I said, okay. And it was a Rebel. It was a Rebel T1i. An older camera. It was built in 2019. I think we were already in 2017. So at that time, it was already outdated. But I said, you know what? I'm going to take advantage of it.
In 2019, but it was 2017. You mean it was built?
In 2009. Yeah, it was built in 2009. Yeah. And it was 2017 when we had purchased the camera. And you know what? It was just like, I said, you know what? All right, I have to figure out a way to be able to go ahead and record my monologues. It was something that I was doing. I started a thing called Monologue Monday. And so each Monday for 10 weeks, I did a monologue, monologues from Raising in the Sun, Remember the Titans, Scandal, different monologues that I wanted to try out. And so I started going through that. And eventually I said, okay, so then that's when I started writing. And I said, okay, well, let's find a way where we can kind of get into the film production side. And if anyone knows cameras, they know a T1i is not at 2017, wasn't going to be beneficial for what I needed. So, but that's all I had. So I ended up using that in front of my projects and taking advantage of that particular project. And maybe two months ago, that camera just died on me. So it definitely, I definitely got my money's worth out of it through monologues, weddings, and different things like that. But to get back into how I got started with Twisted Fantasy, I said, okay, well, I want to be able to produce my own films. I knew that that's something that I wanted to do. So I started a production company. The name I'm inspired by, and I know this may sound crazy, but Kanye West, one of his projects was My Dark Twisted Fantasy. And I took that and I said, okay, I like that. But of course, copyrights and all of those things. I said, how can I still, like, I like, there's certain parts about this title that I want to kind of use. And it went into relation to my mantra for the company. We all have ideas, we all have projects and different thoughts that we want to bring out on paper. And so I thought, well, Twisted Fantasy, it may sound weird, but it's some people's ideas may seem far-fetched, but that doesn't mean that it's impossible or it's not a good project. So I felt as though it fit me in the demeanor of how I wanted the production company to go. And so that's how we came up with Twisted Fantasy and Twisted Fantasy Productions. And so as of 3 months ago, we are now at LLC. So blessed. Yeah. So it's been an amazing ride. And just because that's the first project, it was a great start to be able to begin with what Twisted Fantasy Productions will be able to offer in the future.
Oh, cool. So you mentioned you did monologues. Do you remember any of them?
I do remember some of them, yeah.
The first 3 lines of one of your favorites that you remember.
All right, so this is from Fences. This is when uh, Corey comes and he's talking to his dad, um, and he's asking him, "How come you never liked me?" So we'll go into that there. What the hell you got to ask me, Mr. Stawicki, the one you got questions for? Like you. Who in the hell said I got to like you? Want to stand up in my face and ask me a damn fool-ass question like that, talking about liking somebody. Get over here when I'm talking to you. Straighten up, man. Now I asked you a question. What law is there say I got to like you? Well, all right then. Don't you eat every day? Boy, as long as you in my house, you do as I say.
Wow. Okay, you got your acting chops.
A little something, something.
A little something, something.
A little something,
With after seeing that, I want to ask you, how did you find the actors in your movie?
So a lot of the actors are my close friends, people that I grew up with in the theater community. The guy who plays P, actually, Sean Wyatt, is a good buddy of mine. We grew up together. I don't know if I touched on this, but my mom had a performing arts workshop, and pretty much it took all of the youth or some of the youth in the community and gave us a triple threat. We did acting, singing, and dancing. We were very well rounded in the arts. Mostly all playwrights by like Lorraine Hansberry, August Wilson, different films, black films. And so it took us through a journey, and it gave us a lot of experience going into high school. But Sean Wyatt was one of my cast members. Arnell Lyles, which is my mom, she played my mother in the production. Denise, Devon Lynch, I actually worked with him in a student film project for a student at NYU in the city of New York. So we worked together, and so as I was casting, one of the guys who was actually had the role that he had, who played my brother, Avon, he dropped out. So I reached out to my good brother, Divine, and he was, full-fledged. He said, yo, I'll come out and I'll help you out. So he traveled down from New York just as much as my DP did, Frank Gallagher. Aaliyah Green, I actually know from the community. She actually had me audition for a project of hers. And unfortunately, she wasn't able to get started with it at the time. But so I kept her in mind. I saw when we were auditioning, she was auditioning with me, and I felt her energy. I really liked our chemistry. So I remembered bringing her back on. Like I said, Sean Wyatt was a good brother of mine. We did performing arts together. Joel Williams is a person who I played football with back in high school. And so he, we kind of lost connection, but he ended up coming back. I knew that he was doing comedy and everything like that, but he said he wanted to try out acting. So I said, you know what? And he kept being persistent. And those are one of the things that stands out, someone that's persistent and shows that they actually want to be a part of the project. So I was able to bring him on. And then lastly, my good brother, Frank Chisholm, we actually went to Charter Tech High School together. We went up from freshman to sophomore year, freshman to junior year, and then he ended up transferring over to a different high school. So mostly all of my cast was handpicked because I knew, I've had already worked with them before, or I had some sort of experience or seen them perform before. So that's how I pretty much went about casting for that project.
Okay. Besides making My Brother's Keeper into a feature film, do you have any other projects in the pipeline that you'd like to tell our audience about?
Well, I'm actually today, a little bit later today, we're actually holding auditions for a project called Face Block. It was written by Johnny Carter, and it will be directed by me. So that's one of the projects that I'm working on. I never lost my roots, so I still do weddings. I actually have a wedding in October sometime, but I'm actually working on a big project right now. It's a pilot episode for a new fitness workout reality TV show. I can't give too much information, but as of right now, that's pretty much what it is. So we're shooting the pilot episode next month. So those are some of the projects. And then, of course, I have a screenplay that I've been working on for the past year and a half now, entitled Elizabeth. We're still in development process for that, but we are working on that to begin shooting in 2021.
Okay, cool. Sounds exciting. I can't wait to see your projects.
Thank you.
So, let me ask you this: as a young African American man,
Yes.
what's your take on all this unrest and these issues with the police? Just give us your voice right now.
To be completely honest, it's exhausting. Um, it's overwhelming, uh, emotional, but nonetheless, I think that it's been an eye opener for my generation. Um, I feel like um, we have a lot of change that we have to do. We have a lot of work that needs to be done. Police brutality is something that's been going on for years. It's never, and if you want to take it back further, slavery in a way. It's a never-ending cycle, and I feel like honestly, it's uh, it's something that needs. It's a disease. It's a cancer, to be completely honest. I believe uh, two 2 years ago, I was sitting in class. I'm a criminal justice major, and we were sitting in class and we were having a discussion in regards to the Trayvon Martin case. And for me, you know, I've never I've never experienced police brutality. But I had friends who had experienced it, and we were discussing the Trayvon Martin case, and we were talking about him walking through the neighborhood, and why Zimmerman was uh, harassing him the way that he was, and you know, my class was very diverse, so we had a black, Spanish, white. It was a melting pot in the class, and so a classmate of mine was stating that, oh well, if he wasn't fighting back, maybe it wouldn't have went down that way. And for me, um, I wouldn't consider myself an activist, but I have feelings. I have feelings, and I know I'm a young black man. I've came into encounters with police officers before, and by the grace of God, it's never escalated to that capacity. But I can only imagine. I know when I ever get pulled over by a police officer, I'm nervous. I know, and I shouldn't be, because those are our protectors. Those are the people who make an oath that they're going to protect and serve. Now I have police officers as friends. So I don't want to make it seem as though it's all police officers, but the for the few, or for the people who, the bad apples, it makes it hard to even believe, like, you don't want to chance it. You know what I'm saying? It's like this. When we're walking past a white person, depending on where you're located and depending on that person and their ignorance, they may clench their purse, or they may like seem very uneasy. Or if you're on an elevator with a white person, they may seem uneasy. And if you're knowledgeable, if you're aware, you may see, okay, well, why are they so tense? Like, I'm a good person. Like, you don't need. I'm a graduate. I love hard. Um, I I don't have any like racist thoughts. I love you. I don't even know you, but I love you. But you obviously don't feel that same way. Now, granted, there are times where that person, I don't know what that person's been through. They may have been in a situation where a black person or a Spanish person may have done something to them to make them feel that way. It's the same situation with the police officers. That's how we feel. Not every black person is bad. Not every black person wants to rob you. Just like not every police officer is bad. Not every police officer comes with the intentions of harming us. But because it's happened so often, it's hard to trust. It's hard to believe. And it's hard to say, okay, well, yeah, I know this time it didn't happen. You can't get rid of those nerves. You know
Right.
what I mean? And because, especially for me, because it's gotten so close to home,
Hmm.
uh, it makes it 10 times worse. It escalates it. And like I said, it's very exhausting because we've seen this thing so many times that you begin to become numb. You know what I mean? And we shouldn't. This
Yeah.
is something that's very real.
Normalize this. Yeah,
You
exactly.
know what I mean? And so I think that we have a lot of work to be done. But in all of this, I say this. I think that the Black community has made our voice heard. We're progressing, and we have moves that has been put into place and laws that have been changed in just a matter of this last year, that has been put in place for us to be able to continue to elevate. So um, where I feel very exhausted and angry, I do see the light. I do see some sort of light, um, but I don't want to talk too soon.
Okay.
I don't want to talk too soon, but I do have, because I'm an optimist, I do have I do feel as though we are progressing and we're moving in the right direction. I'll say keep keep putting out your phone, keep pulling out your phones, keep recording, keep holding the police officers in our criminal justice department uh, accountable for their actions, and nonetheless, always love.
Yeah.
Come with love, because when you come with love, the outcome can sometimes be different.
Yeah. I
But
like
always have love there.
I like
Always have love.
come with love. So we're running out of time, but before we go, I want you to tell our audience, how can they follow you on social media? How can they stay up to date on your projects if they want to find out more information? Why don't you tell the audience about that?
So you can find me on Instagram at Eric the Actor One, and on Facebook, you can find me under Eric Motivated Phillips, and on YouTube, it's the same thing as my Instagram name, Eric the Actor One. So I'm on there. I have monologues. Like I said, I have monologues there. The short film is now up there. And so some of the future projects that we're going to be doing will also be up there in the near future.
No, that's awesome. Well, everyone, he's told you where you can find him. Make sure you check him out. See My Brother's Keeper. It's an amazing short film. And until next week, consider yourself blacklit. Thank you.